Howdy. So I wrote them. They are probably not working at the moment. I don't think there's anyone reading any. What is it in English? Response. But probably tomorrow. And what I'm talking about here is posiva. Do they have any in English? No, I think it's just Finnish. But anyway, Olkiluoto. Nuclear waste facility. I don't know, do they have any English version of that page? So let's make Google translate this for us. Final investment solution. Finland is a pioneer in the disposal of spent nuclear fuel. Apart from Finland, no other country has yet progressed to the implementation phase of the final investment. Many countries that use nuclear energy have disposal facilities for low and intermediate level waste, but final disposal of high-level spent nuclear fuel has not yet started anywhere. Yes, and they are putting those, as I have been showing, I think several times, in copper barrels. And I don't think that's a very good idea, since we have geomagnetically induced currents and telluric currents, and for example, a CME could bring quite some energy to us, as we have seen, or not seen, or read from the Carrington event, which is also mentioned in the video I sent them. So, I don't know, maybe that's the last video I ever do. Let's see if they react, and if they react, how they react. But anyway, if you recognize a problem or something which is probably legit, and in this case rather dangerous as well, maybe, and you don't do anything about it, you are part of the problem. So what to do? I recognized a problem and I tried to do something about it. I asked them, are you aware of geomagnetically induced currents and what they can do? And in the video you can see how I'm microwaving stones. So they are able of doing quite a lot. Yes. But now we have to talk about mountain water. You can find it on the NCGT journal page. It's the latest edition. Yeah, download it again because I tried to find it, but I have so many PDFs. So here we have mountain water. Mountain water. A new approach to mountain forming volcanism, glaciers and the role of water in an electric environment. It is basically about that water veins are much more than they seem. And the glaciers are probably contemporary lava streams made of water, which, in other words, means that the glacier carrying mountain is a type of volcano. And as I have been pointing out many times, also, the most extreme version, maybe, of the similar thing is about like how the energy goes up and down between the atmosphere and the Earth's surface and below are like those volcanic plasma phenomena I've been showing to you. Here we have the sea urchin spines, jewel antennas, which are a very important part of this whole thing. And yeah, it's basically just, as I state here, where glaciers start to grow. No, it's not this one. We have still to go a little bit down because it's about floods. Repetitive patterns aren't only present in biology, like a tree always forming the same shape of leaves, for example. They are also present in the geology, some visible with the naked eye and some aren't. The invisible repetitive patterns in questions are cyclical events like eruption rhythms. The actual eruption and its consequence are visible, but the timeline pattern cannot be seen unless numbers are used. Put in a row and compared to each other, like in nature. With only one number, you won't get the solution. You need something to compare to, at least one other number. You will end up searching for a repetitive pattern made of numbers. Yeah, this is mathematics in a way as I see it. So this undermines the strength of repetitive patterns as evidence with or without numbers. Numbers aren't found anywhere in nature. Or did you ever find a 3 in the forest? Or a 4, 6, 7, 12? I haven't. And nothing starts from zero. Numbers are just a tool and not the explanation itself. They can be used to make things visible, but also to obscure them. The Alps aren't just a random accumulation of rocks which every now and then get wet through rain or freeze over in wintertime. It is a very active area. Thousands of wells, dozens of glaciers, rockfalls, landslides, flash floods, geothermal activity, many holy places, and thousands of people living there. It is a part of a bigger picture. The mountains are active, alive, and they interact with their environment continuously, mostly silently, without causing any harm or interruption in the environment. People depend on the activity in the Alps. They need the water pouring out of the rocks. The water pouring out of the rocks. So my wife just sent me an article, and I really have to share this with you. But before, I just want to say this still because I wrote it down. I don't know how many people have been reading this, but their activity and aliveness is the very reason for people living there since thousands of years in the first place. As shown earlier, there is a continuous energy exchange happening between ground and sky everywhere. The variability and the fluctuations of these exchanges are getting more and more researched since the understanding of them makes it possible to predict earthquakes, something which is still seen as impossible by many mainstream scientists. The word science is derived from the word nescience, which means being in a state of not knowing. Therefore, the only goal of science should be the goal of understanding, but it seems there is a wall of ignorance towards certain things, despite the international standard of scientific papers being peer-reviewed, which should give it equal credibility in comparison to other peer-reviewed papers. Many very important papers in the history of science are ignored. But here we have this kind of energy exchange, I think. And I've been making videos about these. There is Victor Schauberger, White Rivers, and somewhere at the end, yeah, here, that's maybe a picture I want to show you quickly. This is not to scale. This should be maybe bigger, I don't know. But I would say, so that's a plasma. And I would say where the plasma touches the edge here, there is where we have volcanoes or geothermal activity or something else, like a water well. But anyway, break floods. I've been there some weeks after the incident, and I have seen this destruction it made. Break is situated in one of those main valleys in the Alps, not too far from the Alps' biggest glacier, the Aletsch Glacier. In the valley itself flows the Rhone River, which discharges into the Mediterranean Sea. Brig also has geothermal activity, which is used for a thermal bath. A new geothermal energy plant is planned there too. Furthermore, there is also a mineral water spring in relatively close proximity to the city, around 10 kilometers, about 1,800 meters higher, is Lake Porto, a small lake with a crater or caldera-like form. From close inspection of satellite images, it is obvious the edges of the lake contain different layers of sediment. Some seem to be piled up in a manner like you would expect when there is high water and fine-grained sediment involved. So, in other words, there could be more coming out there than just water. It is very well possible this lake had an eruption in recent times, at least once. This lake is the stream Saltina's source. The Saltina was blamed for the flood. So now we are talking about a little stream there in the Alps. The name Saltina comes from the Latin word saltare, to jump, and has records of flooding as early as the 14th century. We have to assume the stream's name is no coincidence and can be seen as a warning from the ancient people. Like earlier mentioned, many hints were there in plain sight all the time. So now let's go to the article I just received half an hour ago or something. So that's Helsingin Sanomat, which is the Finnish paper, which is obviously translated into English. Foreign countries, Austria. Yeah, I grew up in Switzerland, so it's not too foreign for me. But anyway, a huge collapse in the Alps. Thousands of tons of rock mass came off the mountain. Yeah, there are other places at the moment which are prone to similar things. Scientists blame the collapse of the mountain's peak on climate change, which has caused an exceptionally rapid melting of the permafrost in the Alps. Yeah, look at the picture in the background. We have clouds rising from the peaks. I haven't read this really yet. I didn't have time, but the top of the Vluchthorn mountain has collapsed. The top of a mountain has collapsed. You know, in a way, it sounds like a volcano to me. What to do? Located in Austria near the Swiss border, Vluchthorn is part of the Silvretta mountain range in the Eastern Alps. The Swiss free newspapers 20 Minutes and the British The Guardian reported on the matter, among others. Thousands of tons of rock fell from the top of the mountain, reports The Guardian. According to the paper, no, according to the paper, officials said the collapse of black and gray rocks created thick clouds and dust that could be seen for miles until the river carried the dust away. According to the local mountain rescue agency, the huge stone masses had already loosened and fallen on Saturday, causing a loud noise. Reports 20 minutes. I think I have to make several videos about that. That's too interesting. The top of the mountain collapsed on Sunday. Experts blame climate change, which is melting the permafrost. Yeah, it could have some influence on that. You know, if the permafrost melts, all of a sudden there's possibility for water rising up within the mountain again. Or the water in the mountain just got warmed up from deep below, which wouldn't have anything to do with climate change or what they are meaning by climate change. Yeah, that's really annoying that we just have so little space. The melted ice produces water underground, which weakens the stability, said geologist Flavio Anselmetti from the Institute of Geology at the University of Bern to 20 Minutes magazine. In the Alps, permafrost usually occurs only above 2,500 meters. For example, last summer the Alps lost ice mass at an alarming rate, partially due to heat waves, partially due to the winter with little snow preceding the summer. As a whole, the melting of ice in Arctic regions and mountains has intensified since the 1990s. A modern rockslide caused the peak of Fluchthorn mountain in Austria to collapse on Monday in an incident likely attributed to a recent snow melt. A mountain rescuer captured the footage of in Tyrol, close to the Swiss border. Is there any more text? And then we check out the video. The Euronews channel published a video from Tyrol, filmed by mountain rescuers on its no comment account. Several large landslides have recently occurred in the Alps. Last month, the Swiss village of Brienz was evacuated due to the risk of a landslide. At that time, however, the reason was not the melting of the permafrost. Yeah. And I haven't heard anything about these Brienz. I didn't really have time for that. Can we make this bigger? Like I said, I didn't really have time to dive into that. But as far as now, as I understood now, there hasn't been any extreme weather events, no heavy thunderstorms or whatsoever. And this water is rather muddy. And I don't know. In a way, if this dries up, I think it's gonna be rather bright or even white. So, do we have a white river in action here? I don't know. But that's just something very impressive and really, really interesting. Yeah, I have to dive into that. This was just a first video about this. I'm gonna find more stuff, I think. I have to. But anyway, I leave it here. Let's see what happens after I row to this nuclear thing. Do they respond? Do I get invited to talk about this topic? Would be interesting. Let's see what they have to say. Yeah. Applied science. Yeah, I'm worried about that. Because they say they are able to put 6,500 tons of highly radioactive stuff down there in copper barrels. at the edge of the surface conductivity anomaly, which seems to be a place where we have auroras, because it could be these places where we have cracks in Earth's magnetic field due to Earth's weakening magnetic field and increasing solar activity and other things. But anyway, thanks. Bye.